All right. Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me. Please, as always, indulge me and let me know if you are hearing me. I know it's embarrassing, but I'm just a guitarist, so you have to, be kind about it. But you should be hearing me. Now let me lower the camera. A little more. And I think we are all set. Is it possible that everything worked? And I might even have the guitar working. Cool. All right, let me see your comments and if you are hearing me. Buckling my seat. Hi guys. Live performance is on. Oh, that's great. Yes. Hello, Jenny. Indrajit, of course. Jose, welcome. All right. Brando, Mukul. All right, everybody. Good to see you. Yeah, so this song is, let me get rid of the overlay. This song is from Feel the Sky. It's a pretty strange song, actually. We'll talk about it maybe a little bit. And so let's get started. How is everybody doing? I guess you're all back from holidays now. If you had any vacations, then you should be back. Now I have to get used to not hearing anything. It's so quiet in here after playing the guitar, but here we go. So again, hello everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about instrumental music, and it's not really going to be a lesson. We're just going to have a little bit of a chat, and I will give you maybe a little bit of insight into what it is to write and perform instrumental music. And maybe I give you a few tips that will be helpful even if you play in a regular band and you just want to approach the guitar a little bit differently. I always played in bands until I decided to do this, but I actually started out playing in rock and roll bands, and we're going to talk a little bit about it. If you're new here, of course, this is the live masterclass we do every Saturday at 6:30 Central European Time. That's about 9:30 in the morning if you live in LA, or 12:30 p.m. if you're in New York. And so we're here every Saturday, usually pick a topic, talk about it for a little while, maybe sometimes not a little while because I talk a lot, and then afterwards we'll open up for questions. And so feel free to join the conversation and ask questions and hang in there with the guys here. Some of them are old faithful, some of them are new, they're all very welcoming. They all love guitar and music, so you'll be in good company, all right? Next week I might be able to do the masterclass, but there won't be a song, unfortunately. I had an idea of playing a really cool one, but I won't be here in the studio, so I will be doing it probably from somewhere else. And even if I record it, then I won't play a song. I want to play them live. If I play them here to nobody, that's going to be even weirder. So we'll just save it for in a couple of weeks. But I might do a video on ear training again, just bringing it up a little bit, bringing it up a notch so you can get a bit more information. If last week's video is a bit too easy for you, then you'll get a bit more out of the next one. And well, anyway, I want to thank you all for all your support. Those of you who send donations, it's very much appreciated. Of course, there's a super chat, but you don't have to do it. But I turned it on because I see a couple of people I watch that do that. So, and I've been told that I should do it, so I'm doing it. But don't feel obliged to do it. And so today I want to talk about instrumental music, and specifically instrumental guitar music. And I will just try to share a little bit of knowledge about it. And in case I bore you, please let me know, but I will start just a little bit of history of how I got to doing this kind of music. And I know this might be extremely boring even if you follow my music, but if you don't follow it, then it must be torture. So if it gets too long, let me know, but I'll talk about, the bands that I got into and how I ended up doing this. And the good thing about this is that if you are a guitar player that plays in a band, you are kind of relegated to a certain role, right? You have to provide usually rhythm, and then you have your part that you have to express yourself within the song, maybe with a guitar solo, but that solo is in the context of a song. And the instrumental music is totally different, and it might open up a few ideas for you, even if you are in a regular band. Okay, so that might be interesting. And also the other thing, I'm just going to talk about my experience. I'm not a traditional instrumental guitar player. I don't do a lot of shredding. I try to save it. As you can see, actually, in all these songs that I play for you, there's always a little something, but is not based on technique or wizardry on the neck, maybe because I can't do it, but also because it just doesn't interest me so much. So I think it's a bit more translatable to an actual band situation. If you can kind of master the idea of expressing things with the guitar, kind of going beyond the technical thing. Okay, so that's something that it's useful. So maybe we can talk about it a little bit. And I will give you also a little bit of ideas on how to, when you compose a solo or you perform it, on how to approach it in a different way. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm going to give you a very quick rundown of how I became an instrumental guitarist. The first thing is when I was just a little kid, we had an electric organ at home, and I always wanted to figure stuff out. So I would watch movies. I remember, when Indiana Jones came out, and then we would go to see, Star Wars on TV and all the stuff. I always wanted to. And Vangelis, I'm a huge fan of Vangelis, but he had a song on How Topic for an Italian, but he had a song on a pasta commercial, and the song was Hymn, and I hated it because the commercial was so dull, but later on when I discovered Vangelis, it's actually a very good song. It's called Hymn, and this song was actually very easy, so I figured it out on the keyboard, and I felt really good. It felt good that I could interface with some instrument and then translate it to to the real world. So that kind of got me started, but I really didn't know how to go about this. So it was always kind of do it yourself, and that has stayed with me a long time. As you know, I produce all my music and I record it, and so that was extremely important for me, even though it has nothing to do with the guitar. And then when I was 8 or 9, I got really into Queen, and Queen to me was it. Queen was everything. Queen was, I got up in the morning and I listened to music and I listened to Queen. I went to school and I had it in my head. I went back home, and while I was doing my homework, I would listen to Queen, and then I would go to bed listening to Queen. It was everything to me. And it was an extremely useful thing to get into music, because otherwise I would never have. My family wasn't really musically inclined. So I really got into Queen, and then one day Freddie Mercury died. I was 12 years old, and I decided that I would be a musician, but I had no idea how to do it, because this is a suburban Milan in 91, and there wasn't a lot of information. There wasn't the internet, there wasn't YouTube, and somebody had a teacher somewhere, but we really didn't know what he was doing. It was very naive. And so from Queen, eventually I really wanted to start singing to be like Freddie Mercury. And I got into other bands, because people say, well, if you like singers, you should listen to this band or that band. And I remember getting into Dio, of course, it was huge. I got into Ozzy with Randy Rhoads. I got into Rainbow, of course, and Michael Schenker Group. I got into all these bands, and Maiden and Priest. And somehow my ear always went to the guitar, but I didn't even know really what it was. And then one day I asked my dad for a piano, and my dad said, well, the piano is big and expensive and it's huge, and what if you don't like it? So he conspired with my cousin, and they got me a guitar. And so that's how I started, with a classical guitar. And then eventually I moved on to the electric, but I still wanted to be a singer until in 1996 I went to see my very first concert. It was AC/DC on the Ball Breaker tour. And that changed my life too, because I thought, well, now I can be the center of attention like that guy up there and just be the guitarist. And right then and there, I already was in a band. Well, actually, I joined the band right afterwards. It was called Jar. And that meant, more to the point of today's video, that I was in a real world situation in a band that we played in clubs. We played on big stages, also small ones, but we played in some of the biggest clubs in Milan. We had all original material. And when I joined them, they already had it. So, I had to get my shit together really quick. And I had responsibilities, and I didn't know anything about anything, and there was no safety nets. At the time it was just, you go there with your guitar, you plug into any amp the guys will give you, and you play your set, right? And that taught me more than anything else in my whole life. And that's something that we talked about here in these chats we have about YouTube and Instagram and all that new culture of guitar playing. And that's something that strikes me as odd, because it has all these safety nets, right? Because you can record something 1,000 times, you can make yourself look better, you can do all kinds of stuff. You can produce stuff, to the point where your actual performance becomes secondary. And so I don't know what you guys think about it, but to me, I'm still there. I never evolved from just picking up the guitar and doing it. and that means usually, you know, a lot of practice and a lot of sense of, you know, there's a certain responsibility to it. And so that was extremely important and valuable, because after that, what happened? Well, I saw G3 in 97 or 96, I think, in Europe. It was Steve Vai and Satriani. I saw Crossroads on TV. I thought, this is crazy, you know. And then as far as actual instrumental music, that all started when I went to America. I went to America and I changed my whole life. I left my friends in Milan. I left pretty much everybody I knew, went to America. My brother was there. But, you know, my circle of friends wasn't there. There was nobody who played music. And I did meet a few people and jam with them, but still I was kind of on my own. And I said, well, if I want to make music, I might as well just start doing it. And I started writing music with a singer in mind, but then I couldn't find a singer. And eventually, you know, I gravitated towards instrumental music, especially when I bought my very first Porta Studio, which I have here. I can't move it, but it's a Tascam cassette recorder. And I hope you guys remember cassettes, right? I'm sure you do. Here, let me... Well, it's okay. You all, I'm sure even the young ones know cassettes, right? Because now everybody seems to love analog. But that's what got me started, because I could then take an idea and put a drum machine down and actually record a whole song. And that was incredible. That was the most freeing sensation ever. And that's what got me into composing. And I don't know, how many of you guys actually play only guitar music? Because, you know, I'm always concerned about this being relevant to you. Suryakant, hello. Hello, sir. Well, hello to you. Hello to you. How are you? I know you're all quiet, and I want to think that's because you're listening. I know it might also be because you're asleep. And you do. Jose, you play instrumental music? Right on. Well, very soon you'll all have to start your own channel and play those songs for me live, so you get all stressed out on a Saturday. And I go out in the morning. I'm like, man, do I know how to play the song for tonight? You know, I get all stressed out, like a regular concert, really, but worse. And we're gonna talk about it later. You know how this is different. Indrajit, just guitar and a little keyboard. All right. Suryakant, you play guitar music. All right. Cool. So this might be relevant to you. And you know, I know you guys have all kinds of. You're inspiring me to set up a drum beat on my electric piano. All right, Jenny, do that. Okay, so please keep writing. You know, it's then I can go over the question, but don't feel that you're interrupting or anything. I rather prefer a lively chat. So so I got into composing, and I had no idea of how to write for instrumental guitar. And so the first thing that struck me as strange was that everything I knew about song playing, because with my band we used to play actual songs, and they were actually really good rock songs, and we got pretty far with it for being a suburban band in Italy. But we were very good, and our singer Joe was great, incredible singer and incredible songwriter and frontman. You know, it was great, and I think we were a very good band. And so when I started transitioning to instrumental, there were so many things that seemed unsurmountable to me. One of them was, of course, the lack of lyrics, but not because, you know, there's no lyrics. The main thing is that what eventually turned out to be the greatest advantage of instrumental music, which is no lyrics, was to me one of the biggest stumbling blocks, because I thought, well, how do I know what the song is about? Okay, and if I'm helping you with this, maybe by saying this, but I was under the wrong impression. I was thinking I have to write instrumental music. And then instrumental music became a problem that I had to fix. See what I'm saying? And of course, that's the wrong way to go about it. The idea is to write a song that you want to write. But at the time, I decided I was going to try instrumental music, and I said, okay, how do I write instrumental music? And that, of course, didn't work, but it wouldn't work with regular songs either. And so I eventually came to see the lack of lyrics as an advantage. I figured that if I don't know what the guy is saying to me, because he's not speaking a language like we're used to, you know, we're actually just listening to sound, then I'm free to imagine anything I want. And whatever I want to imagine can be extremely different from what the guy who wrote it had in mind. So it's kind of like really like reading a book or watching a movie in a way, because when you read the book, of course, you have to make up your mind about everything, about how the characters look and the places and the geography, you know, everything else. And then when you see a movie, usually you're like, okay, but you know, the movie is fun. It's really fun to watch movies, but it's a different experience. And so I understood how to, slowly I understood how to take advantage of the lack of lyrics. And you know, and then when I got into art, you know, I thought, well, you know, what I'm doing is more similar to watching I don't know, a Rothko painting, right? Instead of a Caravaggio, where people who don't know about it might say, well, that's just a little square painted in one color. But you know what I mean? It's you kind of have to get into it slowly to get going. And so I started to write very short themes. Instead of worrying about a song, I said, well, can I write a good melody? Can I write a good melody that will make people want to listen to it, right? And then eventually I got into all the emotional stuff. But the beginning, if you are starting out, I would say is write something that you want. You know, you start with something that you feel and maybe try to put it into music. People do it with lyrics as well. You know, if they want to express something, they do it with lyrics. And so the lack of lyrics was something that was quite revealing to me. And the other thing that really was I had a hard time with, and I still do sometimes, is titles. And that's one question that I get all the time in interviews. Like, how do you title your instrumental music? And the thing with instrumental music is that title for me was such a big responsibility, because when you have a regular song and you call it something, you might call it something, but then you still have 5 minutes to tell people what it is you're trying to say, because you have your lyrics. But with instrumental music, you can steer the experience of the listener like 100%, because you give a title and then whatever you play is like a prism, right? The whole song will go through it and come out a different way just depending on your title. And so my advice for titles is well, there's two ways I do it. One of them is to keep them extremely non-descriptive. And that's what I often do. Even if there are words, you know, there are words that can be interpreted in many ways. And the reason is that I don't want to spoil it for the audience. Okay, because my choice of notes will, you know, they will resonate differently for every person. As a matter of fact, if you listen to the song today and then you listen to the same song 5 years from now, you might feel totally different things. Okay, so if the title is too descriptive, like I am mad, then that's kind of, you know, it kind of narrows it down a little bit. And sometimes I do the opposite. For example, there's a song called Speeding at Night, and the title is descriptive. I want to have something, you know, put something up there that you can focus on, and then that way, whatever I do with the music, I can kind of, you know, go in and out of that space, but the title of the song will still keep you kind of within those boundaries. You see what I mean? That I'm kind of forcing you to interpret whatever you hear from that title. So titles are extremely important, and I think it's something that sometimes I see maybe people who are beginning to write instrumental music, and they have titles that are like, I'm kind of scratching my head with them, which of course I'm sure most people do with my titles too, but it's something that I take great care of or with. And sometimes they can be a bit cheesy, right? Like opus number. So there I was always extremely careful to not do that. Although if you wanted to do it, you know, that's great. But to me, it sounded like, well, I'm not really taking advantage of it. You know, I'm not taking advantage of the options that the titles give me. And then still, we're talking about composing, right? So one thing that I noticed about, especially when I'm producing the albums, is that's something I never had to worry about when I was playing in a band, which was all the sounds and the way I play and the way I pick and the way I finger the notes and what string, because it becomes so important, because all the subtleties of the instrument, it becomes amplified 100% because the guitar is always there. It's doing the melodies, it's doing the solo, it's doing the intros, and you always have to, you know, you always have to say, well, what sound will be the most appropriate for what I'm trying to express in this song? You know, often I've got it wrong, but you know, usually I try to get it right, and it's an extremely important thing. And so sound is something that I would suggest. You know, with students sometimes they bring me these songs, and it's really strange when a song that has to deal with loss sounds exactly the same as a song that deals with like speeding on a highway, right? It's like, okay, that's strange, because how, it might be possible, but maybe it's just that we're being a bit lazy with sounds. So that's something I always try to, instill in people. And nowadays it's so easy, because you have all these machines. You have the Kempers and the Helix and the XFX, and you have all kinds of plugins. So you can explore, different sounds in a way that I certainly could not do when I had my Tascam and an overdrive pedal plugged right into it. Okay, so I would suggest you look into it. It's an extremely important thing. Then, of course, there is. I'm seeing all your comments. I'm going to get to them right away. But let's talk about a bit more about composing. So technical requirements. That's another thing that I feel people kind of get intimidated by, because there's a belief that instrumental guitar players are all virtuosos, and if you're not a virtuoso, then you shouldn't be playing instrumental guitar. And I don't think necessarily you have to. You might need to become proficient to a degree, but really what you need to know and how fast you have to play depends on what it is you want to play. And so my point of view is that I always wanted to be able to play anything, or at least be able to work my way up to anything. So if I ever needed to play something specific, I wanted to be able to do it. But I know people who are extremely technical, like they can play circles around me, and then when I listen to the song, I kind of get lost in them. But sometimes I see people who are very technical and are great songwriters, and sometimes I see people who write great songs, but they can't quite get there with their technique, so it kind of impairs them. And so my suggestion here, if you want my suggestion, is to keep in mind what it is you want to do, and you will discover it as you progress, and then kind of tailor a practice towards it. Yeah, so if I remember when I was starting out, I said, well, my skill set that I had when I was playing in a band might not be enough when I want to play all these melodies. And to me, it wasn't technique, because I already had quite a bit of technique by the time I was 19 or something like that. But the problem for me was I didn't know how to play in a way that communicated beyond those 30 seconds of a guitar solo, right? And that was extremely hard, because I would write this song, and after 45 seconds listening to the songs, I wanted to shoot myself. It was a torture to listen to it. And it became obvious to me that if I only practice technique, that's what I would spit out when I was playing. And so that's when I really got into ear training. I'm a big proponent of ear training. I got into ear training. I got into learning scales. Instead of just going by fret numbers and playing fast, I've tried to figure out what it is that makes a scale or a person feel certain things when you play certain notes against each other. Okay, so that's how I got into it. And it was a lot of work, because I was all self-taught, as much as anybody can be self-taught. But really, I had no teachers, and it was a different era, and information wasn't as available as it is now. And it was hard work, and I wrote a lot of bad songs, which brings me to the final suggestion here, which is to write every day. Play, write your songs, write instrumental music. And my first instrumental songs were terrible and embarrassing, and I think I knew then, but even if I didn't know then, it is obvious now when I look back on it. They were just an expression of what I thought had to be an instrumental song, and it's not true, right? You have to express what it is you feel. So when I learned to listen to what I wanted to say and then find it on the guitar, seeing the guitar as an instrument instead of the end goal of the practice, when you're starting out, especially in that era, the early 90s, late 90s, there was still a lot of shredding going on, and I thought that the goal of a guitar player was to, or mid 90s, was to be a great guitar player. And then I learned that didn't interest me. What interested me was to become a good musician and to write good songs. And that shift had been very hard for me, and I tried to spare it from people who are coming up. And so if I can spare it for you, then make sure you practice what it is you want to sound like. Yeah, not what you think you should sound like, or see the guitar as, if I can play this at 200 BPMs, then I'm there. No, if you can play it at 200 BPMs, you'll play it at 200 BPMs. That doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean you write a better song for it. Yeah. Now, if your song requires you to play at 200 BPM, by all means, do it. I've done it, and put in the hours, put in the practice, and yeah. So that's for composing. Those are some of the points that I kind of talk about sometimes when people ask. And yeah, I hope I didn't go too fast. But you know, at the end, I go over this whole stream and I put chapters into the video, so you'll be able to watch it again if you want. Let me see some of your questions here. Jose, okay, yeah, only guitar, no cool. Melodies will do the talking. Jose, yes, melody is where it's at, for me at least. You know, when I broke away from blah, 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 you know, I realized that melodies are really everything. And Indrajit, you like my song titles? Thank you. Sin Tiempo, hello. I don't speak English very well, but I like your channel because you have and play a Parker guitar. Me too, all right, cool. And you're from Chile. Hola, ¿qué tal? And you learn with my tutorial and videos. Well, thank you very much. Gracias. I like for composing my Parker guitar with a MIDI instrument. Yes, of course, you can. You know, nowadays it's so easy, right? Putting drums down. I still have all my drum machines there, and that's what I used to punch in note by note into this little Tascam. Jose, you have a question, but it's kind of for 30 minutes later. Yeah, spill it. Just write it down. If it's not for right now, I'll just answer it later. And then Suryakant, I don't know what those are. Those little things. But yeah, so once you composed you've composed your instrumental masterpiece, then okay, let me read Jose's question. I hope this question is not silly. Phrasing on a 3-chord progression over a 4/4 compass, which is a measure, and after 9 bars, I wanted to take it as a bridge. What's a good strategy to alter the chord progression? All right, so how to go from a verse to a bridge? Okay. Confirm, please, that that's what you mean, and we'll talk about it. Yeah, of course, no problem. So after you've written your masterpiece, the next thing I figured that would be extremely hard was to take, you know, the songs live and to perform them for an audience. And that's totally different too from being in a regular band. And that's something that to me was a rude wake-up call, because I used to go out with my band. Again, as I said, I almost had no gear. I had my guitar and some black clothes that I had, and that was it. And we would go and play for an hour, and that was it. And then we load the guitar up in the car, and off we go. But when I played my first instrumental show, I won't go into details because I don't want anybody to find it anywhere. I don't think it's anywhere, but I started playing, and I just felt the weight of all the work that I had to do on that stage. And it was like 100 times heavier than everything I'd ever done with my band, because with the band, you're like, you know, you're just playing and you're part of something that I wasn't part of when I was up there in front of the stage. And I also didn't have the skill to keep pumping out music for 1 hour with no mistakes or barely no mistakes, because people don't want to hear you screw up, and to put the songs across. And my songs weren't so good, so it was a disaster. And that's something that really made me pause for a while. So my first advice for people who want to start doing this is that you have to understand that when you do instrumental music live, first of all, it helps if you're not one of those guys who play 3 notes, 3 notes, 3 notes, 3 notes, right, in your studio, and you paste them all together. You should learn how to perform in the safety of your own house and the anonymity of your own house. That's what I suggest. You don't want to find out, like I did, in a theater with about 600 people in it, and figuring out that you don't even know how to set your amplifier, right? That's not a good way to do it. So always do it in your home, okay? Don't practice in front of people, right? Because I don't even know why I didn't give up right then, because it was a terrible experience, and I had a few, but that was a wake-up call. So I suggest that you do it properly in your home. And also you at the same time, you start playing as soon as possible for as many people as possible. And what I suggest is you go maybe with friends who have a band, and say maybe you can just play 2 songs before their show. Say, I play for free, can I just play 2 songs to warm up your audience, or 3? And then you lose a lot of responsibility, and you don't do what I did. Okay, but assuming you know how to play, one thing that I've learned through the years about playing live instrumental music is to be aware of the arc of the song. And that applies to, I think, every guitar player, but maybe in a regular band is the singer who's really more, more involved with taking the song from here to a different space. And the singer leads the band, and as the singer leads the band, then the band follows. But really the singer is responsible of, even if the song is verse, chorus, bridge, solo, verse, chorus, chorus, the final verse and chorus should feel like an evolution of the first. And so sometimes I see, and I do it sometimes too, I see myself do it, but I really see with people who have less experience, they're not aware of the whole arc of the song. And so because of nerves, maybe because they're tense, or just because they're not aware of it yet, they kind of play the first 10 notes with the same intensity and the same feel of movement as the final 10 notes. And so the song kind of falls flat. And if you do it with 20 songs, then the set becomes pretty hard to listen to. Okay, so it's extremely important. And so you can ruin a performance by being too restrained, or you can even be too aggressive. Sometimes it's important to understand when you can afford to go over the top a little bit, and then when to keep it down, because people will respond differently. And you can't just give people a barrage of notes and of intensity all the time, because then it kind of flattens out. And this song that I played today is kind of like that, because when I rehearsed it a couple of days ago, I said, I should I should practice it. I felt that I played it all right, but I felt that it wasn't going anywhere. I had no idea of how to use it. And this song is a long arc. Now, if you want to go back and listen to it, you'll hear that there's an intro, then there's another intro, then there's the verses, there's the choruses, then there's a solo. There's really not a solo, it's just a bunch of sections, one after the other, and they're almost all very melodic. And then it goes into a kind of a bridge, but until like 3 minutes, you don't actually start seeing a structure. And that was hard, and so I had to figure out how to do it. And the other thing you will notice is if you practice with backing tracks, like now I'm playing to backing tracks, there is a problem with it, because live you can play with the band and they will follow your intensity level, but a recorded track won't. So that's another thing you can practice with. Record your songs. Of course, take out the lead guitar like I do, right? These are all my records just without a lead guitar. Every time I do a record, I make a mix, a little master of just the TV mix. That's what they call. And so you do that, and then you play on top of it, and you can actually try to push the song with your own guitar playing. Try to push the song to the edge, and you'll find a point where the rhythm track doesn't follow you, right? Of course, but you kind of reach the outer limits of what the rhythm track allows for, and then you'll feel the song fall apart. And that's something that I learned when I started playing over my own rhythm tracks. When I prepare for rehearsals or for shows, I don't always practice with the band. I can just play at home, and then when the band comes in, I know what I'm doing, almost. And so that's a good trick. You can play to backing tracks. They don't have to be your songs. You can play to a backing track. Keep it long, right? 4 or 5 minutes. Try to play a long arc, and see how far you can take it. And you'll find a point where it falls apart. And that will train you a little bit into that concept of, okay, where is this song now? Where am I going later? When am I going down? When am I going up? And it has nothing to do with volume or clean sound versus distorted sound. That's details. I'm talking actually about the way you approach a note and the tempo, right? If you're pushing the rhythm, you're pulling on it, you're restraining yourself. Those are very important things. Yeah, and does it make sense? I hope it does. I'm just talking a lot today. Desafinados, you're here. Good to see you. All right, yeah, we missed you last couple of weeks. And you were late today. Okay, well, no problem. You can always watch it later if you want. And by the way, now that we're all here, I play the song as soon as I turn the computer on. I go live and I start the rhythm track, because I don't want to have my microphone all set up, so I have to do it that way. and also because I don't want to bore you with, you know, the people who are watching later with 5 minutes of silence or stuff like that. So I just go on and play. If you miss the song, you can still watch it if you want later. But keep in mind, if you want to see it live, you should be on time. I 6:30, maybe 6:32 or 33, I'm on and I play it. And also because otherwise I'd be talking to you, worrying about playing the song. So I might as well just do it first, and that's it. All right, so I get here, turn the computer on 5 minutes early, turn the amp on to warm up, and just play. And so if you want to hear it, make sure you're on time. This is not for you, Desafina. I know we all have stuff to do, but just in case, you know, if you're wondering, if you're new. Sin Tiempo says, you're right, 2 songs before play is enough. And I like concentrate before play and feel comfortable. Yes, you can do that. You know, you can go anywhere and say, well, let me play a couple of songs for you, you know, for your band. Just let me warm up your audience. A lot of bands will be great, you know, would be grateful for it. They go like, yeah, sure, come on and play a couple of songs, and then don't mess up our gear, but play a few songs and then we'll go on. They have a free opening act. So that's my suggestion. Okay, so we're talking about the long arc of the song, and the other thing that's connected to it, I think, is thinking of the big picture. And thinking of the big picture means that guitar players, we are naturally inclined to think of all the little details that nobody cares about, like, well, you know, when I practice, I'm holding my, you know, all these little things, and do I like this string over that string? Is it the Dario, or should I use Ernie balls? And, you know, all the little details, even technical stuff, is just of no importance. So, you know, nobody really cares about what setting you have on your amp, if your middle and trebles are on 4 or they're on 4.5, although we will talk about it a little bit. And so I would say just think of the big picture. The big picture is the emotional charge of the song, and you have those 5 minutes to manage a level of emotion that goes from low to mid to high. And that's it. And that's it. Now, if you need technical stuff or mechanical things like a pedal, or then by all means, you know, use them, but don't focus on that before you think of the needs of the song. All right. And then I see it all the time. And that brings me to another point, which is to keep it simple. You have to keep it simple because, well, you don't have to do it. Of course, this is all my things that I discovered through the years, and they might change tomorrow. So as always, I always say, take everything I say, you know, if you listen to it, and if you think it's good for you, do it. If not, completely, absolutely ignore me. There are no rules. But one thing I like to do is I go out with a wah-wah pedal. I go out with 2 delay pedals. One of them is always on, and then I have maybe something for a song or two, like an octave pedal for one song or two, and that's it. That's it. I keep it extremely simple. And if you're in a band, you can have all these pedals, but really for me, I find that if I don't have to worry about all the stuff that can go wrong, then I can play a lot better. And it's extremely important. You know, the fewer things you carry, the fewer things that can go wrong. Stuff breaks and cables stop working. And so the least amount of stuff is great. I would do that. I would bring a backup if you're playing your own music, because it's really hard to play your songs on somebody else's amp that doesn't have enough distortion or sounds too bright. And the Kemper has been great for me, because I go out with my rig and then I have a Kemper. If something blows up, plug into the Kemper, and I'm coming out of the speakers, and the show goes on. But I would say keep it simple, at least in the beginning. Just go out with fewer things and know them well. And another thing that has to do with gear for live performance, this is not an issue with the studio, but for live, is to watch those frequencies in the mids and highs. Like I'm a Marshall guy. I use Marshalls, not exclusively of course, but I use them a lot. And most people equate the Marshalls with those very aggressive and screaming mid-range. And I found that for instrumental music, that mid-range that you can use in an 8-bar solo in your band, it's really hard to swallow when you do 2 hours with it. You know, I don't want to punish the audience, right? Okay, not only you have to listen to 2 hours of instrumental music, now I will drill your ears with my 4K and 3.5K at, you know, 100 dBs. Now you don't want to do that. And so I found out very early on that when you play guitar for so long and you have to take care of all different facets of guitar playing, melodies and being mellow and being aggressive, I like to set the amp up so that, as a matter of fact, my amp is set up very conservatively. But I almost never go up to 12 on any dial on the amp, except for distortion. But usually my EQ is, it's down to 10, 11, 11:30 o'clock, depending on the amp. And I find that extremely important. Also for me, because I don't want to have that sound coming at me all the time. And in the studio, of course, you do what the song calls for. But for live, I really suggest you explore your amplifier. And if you want to go overboard with something, just make it a bit mellower. Instead of, you can always bring it up, but really people will be punished if you inflict it on them so long. Okay, so that's I think a useful piece of advice that comes from experience. And I don't think it might be debatable, but I haven't seen an instance ever where you want to have that screaming sound that you would use in a normal band for your performance live. And especially with high volumes. At high volumes, I won't get into it, but the way your ear responds to certain frequencies changes with volume. And so I'm always aware of how much of a bass tone I have. I want to have a lot of that on stage, and I want to have those lower mids, the creamy part of the sound, have that available. And then use my pick and the way I play, even what string I play and what string I choose to play. I use nines, which I can get quite a bit of a scream out of. They can sound pretty thin, and I want to be able to do that myself. I don't want the amp to always be full on. All right, so that's another thing that I do for performance, and that's pretty much it, really. Those are some advice that I would give people who are interested in doing this kind of music. Let me see some of these questions. Tasfa 10, the stage is so different from the bedroom. Yeah, last time I played live, it was so hot on stage, on top of the nerves, that my hands were sweaty and I messed up my shredding solo. Yes. Well, Tasfa, we've all been there. We've all been there, and the other thing is it never goes away. Every time I hit go live here and I said, okay, this is it, this is it. Now you got to play your song. And in your mind, you always think, okay, I'm going to screw it all up. And then one way to fix it, Tasfa, is you can't ever fix it 100%. Because if you go see great guitar players, sometimes they screw up. I've seen Paco de Lucia, I've seen Van Halen, I've seen Steve Vai, I've seen Brian May, I've seen Joe Satriani, I've seen Blackmore, and I don't know, I've seen all these people, Jeff Beck many times, and there's always something. But the thing is, we're talking about catastrophic levels, right? That's why I think you're talking about a catastrophe, and that gets filtered out through experience. And so that's what I was saying before. Getting used to playing in front of an audience is really the best thing, because when you're just rehearsing, especially at home, you think you got stuff under control. You really do. Because it's not being lazy, right? I think, Tasfa, you practiced enough. The thing is, you can't focus on the important stuff, because until you get on a stage, you don't know what the important stuff is. You don't know what it is to feel your hands are like 10% or 20% slower than when you were practicing alone, and that your sound is shit, and that the monitors don't work, and you're only hearing on one side, and then the drummer drops his stick, and the audience should be raptured by your beautiful music. They're actually talking to each other, and you're like, listen to this song is great, and they don't even care, because they're there to watch the band that comes on after you or before you. So those things you only learn when you do it, and my suggestion is to go out and do it as quickly as possible. Go out there, as I was saying before, find any way to perform in front of people. Get in there and support the band, or just do sound check for them, whatever you can to be on a stage. And then you will know when you get home, you say, well, instead of being all depressed, or after you get over your depression, you can think, what is it that made it so terrible, and you start seeing, especially if you do it a few times, I've done it, like a lot of shows that are shit, then you go like, okay, well, there's something in common with all these shows. One thing that happens, for example, is, I don't know, I forget my songs. And so it's not that I don't practice enough, it's that I don't practice with a perspective. I practice with the detail, but I can't see the perspective of the whole song. I can't keep the song like I'm watching it from above. I'm right there with the song right there, and it's hard to manage it. So maybe you can practice like that. Maybe you can practice if there's a solo that never comes out, well then maybe it is technique. Or maybe you're used to playing something wrong a few times, and then as long as you get it right once, that's it, I'm ready. I've done that. I will tell that story if you want sometimes, but I've done that too. And you learn from these things. My only advice is that you should learn with as few people as possible in the audience. And nowadays, when I did it, nobody cared but now there's YouTube and there's video. And the worst thing is people make videos of you and they don't know if you played a wrong note because they don't care, really, that's a good thing. But you're playing and you're like, man, I play like shit, and somebody made a video, even a friend of yours, and he puts it up on Instagram or on YouTube thinking you played great, right? And they think that they're doing you a favor and you want to kill them. So nowadays I feel there's a bit more responsibility when you go on stage to play. Not to talk about this stuff. I don't know why I thought about playing live on YouTube, because now that is there forever. And not that there's many views, but still, you kind of feel a responsibility. But it's good to never let it go too long. So if I'm not playing live because of the virus, it's important for me to keep it going here, because you don't want to lose that edge, of being able to manage the situation. Indrajit says that I had a nightmare performance, but the show had to go on as everything depended on me. It was a shit show. All right. Well, I see. Now I would like to hear. Yes, this one was being. Well, Tasfa, your posts are really funny. Where are you from? So Tasfa says that this one was being professionally recorded for YouTube. Yeah, that happened to me too once. Not for YouTube, but I played not a bad show, but I made a few mistakes, and I really hate making mistakes live. And I've learned to let them go through the years. But in the beginning, I made a mistake, and my mind would just stay back there with the mistake. I couldn't. The song, I was playing the rest of the song, but my mind had a hard time following, and I was just stuck there with a mistake, like a gremlin. And so I go home and I'm a bit pissed because we only played a few songs, and somebody sent me a video, and it's on TV, and it's like, look at the virtuoso, and there's a shot. There's a video of me playing on TV. And I'm like, no, we all want to be on TV, right? Playing music so people watch it. But I'm like, of all the concerts that I do, why this one? And so, you kind of have to live with it. The good thing is that most people don't care. I've seen Paco de Lucia make mistakes, and I just remember now because we're talking about it. Otherwise, I've never even thought of it. I always have these memories of seeing him perform. So, from Portugal. All right. Well, we'll all go hunt for Tasfa's concert on YouTube, right? No, I'm kidding. We're not gonna do that. But yeah. So, all right. Well, please do share your stories. Desafinados, Alex, do you have any stories? Alex is a great guitar player. If you don't know him, he has a very successful channel as well. He makes great music. He has a new album out. Well, almost new, right? It came out this year, and I'm sure he has a few stories. So Alex, if you have any horror stories, please share them, because that will make us all feel better. So Jose, in the meantime, I'll get to you. Now this question is a bit hard because every song is different. Really, there's no way of answering it, but I will give you a couple of examples maybe. If you're going to a bridge, right? Are you going to a bridge? Yeah. So if you're going to a bridge, you probably want something that pushes the song forward. And one way of, musically speaking, one time-honored way of doing it is to go to a degree of the scale of the chords that adds movement. So if you are, for example, let's make it simple. If you are in C major, you will have 2 or 3 chords that feel like you're staying on the same level. Those might be C major, A minor, and E minor, right? They're chords that don't really feel like, I have no idea what you guys will hear. Wait, let me see if I can. you see these chords don't really feel like they're going anywhere as far as movement goes. They have color, but they don't have a lot of momentum. Now there's other chords that do feel like they're going up one step, okay? And those are in C major, they're D minor and F major. Those are the subdominants, okay? And so that will sound like this. You're in C, and you go to this. You feel that, the elevation? And so that's something you can do. You can go to that section, and that's one way of doing it. You know, going to the subdominant, that will kind of start the ball rolling, and then it will make you fall back into the chorus. But that's just one way to do it. For example, there's a song that I again, you know, I talk about my music because I kind of know it. Kind of. Don't think that I know it too well. I still have to put it out and put the record out and go through my songs before I play them for you. But one song called Power Were Fantastic, and that song is all in C. There's one little section in D for the solo, but really the whole song, if it were all in C, you wouldn't mind. You know, you wouldn't even notice. But it's all in C as far as the intro is in C. I don't know if you guys, I can't hear anything. See, if I turn the volume up, it will feed back into my microphone. I hope you could hear that. But anyway, it's all C, and then that's the bridge again is in C, and the chorus is in C. And that song is all. That song feels like a bridge, an intro, a verse, and a chorus, but it's still C. And so I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly how to do it, but to practice, I might do that. I might say, okay, well, let me just focus on the three basic steps. So we have root or tonic, so it's C, E minor, and A minor. We have F and D minor, which are the subdominants, and then we have G, or if you want B diminished, if you're into that, those are my dominants. And think of it as three steps. So you can go from here, I can go up one step and go to F, and then I can work my way down, right? Walk down to C, but I could also go all the way up to G, and then I can decide if I jump down to C, or I walk my way down from G to F to C. And you know, that's one way. The other way is to just listen to a lot of music you like and see what they did. You know, but and we can get into it one of these weeks, of course. I'd be happy to do it. All right, Alex says that it's been 20 years since I haven't stepped up on a stage. I used to play on a band touring between 18 and 20 years old, that kind of band for village celebrations. ¿Cómo se llama? Las ferias. No, ¿cómo se llama eso? Las fiestas de, ya sé que. 5 hours every day during 25 days in a row in August. A few mistakes, but nobody cares. They're all drunk, right? Yeah. A few big shows, great feeling, loved it and miss it. All right. Orquesta de Pueblo, yeah. Yes, yeah, actually I've been asked to join a few through the years. Now not anymore because they know I don't want to do it. But yeah, so you know, Alex says he loved it. I think I probably wouldn't. You know, it's maybe, I don't know. It just there's something about playing covers, you know, that I'm not that interested in. Or actually playing them is great, but learning 50 songs, I would feel like I was, you know, it would probably kill me. But yeah, but it's good work though. People get paid well for that. Yeah. All right. So how long have we been going? For about an hour? Well, they went by quickly. I hope you guys didn't get bored. You know, I hope I didn't talk too much. I will do my best to be here next week in some form. Maybe I will just be I'll be here from somewhere. And I might not have my rig with me. I might do it from the phone if you don't mind. But you know, maybe we can do a little something on ear training, and if I can find a quiet spot where I'm going, then I will do it. And maybe we'll do the live performance. We'll do it the following week. And I have a very nice song that I want to play and never played it before live ever. Last time I played it was when I recorded it in about a year ago, in 2019. So no, more than a year ago. So yeah, I will try to do that in a couple of weeks. Vince Janella. Hello, Vince. Hey, Andre, fellow Parker Fly fanatic. All right, and Dorsey, man, I miss our guitar company. Yeah, you know, I wouldn't, I don't think it's coming back. I don't think I have no contacts. I've been asked this a lot, and I really have no contact with anybody. I don't think there's anybody there. And I was in contact a little while after they closed, and we got something sorted. But yeah, Vince, I don't know if you have any news, but none on my end. Sadly, no. Yeah. So, but you know, I've been actually asked to switch companies a couple of times because, you know, people. I think it's common knowledge now that Parker isn't anymore. But I love my Parkers. I still play them. This is my. I can play this. I can play this in my sleep, you know, and you know, my other ones too. But this is really. This has become an extension of my body. So I'm not, you know, I'm not saying I will never play other guitars, because there are probably some great brands out there, but not the ones that I've been approached by. You know, they're great guitars, but I don't see the advantage. And I really feel like I would be letting her down. You know, you know, guitars. I have a lot of guitars, and I play all of them, but some of them are just you bond with them, and this one is really special to me. Yeah, so I'm sticking with them. And me too. All I use are my flies. Yeah, I can understand you. Yeah. How many you got? All right, well, if anybody has any more questions, this will be the time before we adjourn to next week. Beautiful solar flare. Yes, yeah, this is my favorite. You have 16 Parkers. All right, Vince, I think you have a problem. 16 Parkers. Well, no, I'm kidding. Congratulations. Those are. Well, the other good thing is that whatever happens, you'll have Parkers for the rest of your life, right? You don't have to worry about stuff breaking. All right, man. 16. Cool. No, Andre, you answered my question. Thanks, mate. You're very welcome. All right, so I will hang around for a couple of minutes more if you have any more questions, but I hope it was fun. It was just a bit relaxed today. I didn't give you a lot of homework, and you should feel glad about that. Next week there might be some homework because ear training, it requires a lot of work. And what else? I don't know. Thank you for being here. If you're new, please think about subscribing, liking, commenting, and all that, because I'm trying to revive the channel after I left. You know, I kind of left it dormant for so long that now it's taking a bit of time to get it started again. I might do a Tuesday Inside the Song. I'm kind of run out of videos that I pre-recorded, so I'm hoping to do it in the next couple of days. If I can record and edit it, there will be one. Otherwise, I'll just wait 1 week and then we'll start again. There's like already a few of them, 13 or 14. And I will definitely see you next week if I can. If you don't see an announcement by Friday at night, I think we might not have a stream next Saturday, but I really want to do it. So stay tuned, please. If you haven't done so, please also hit the bell, because I've got a lot of notifications people saying that they don't get the notification. And also, as I was saying, if you could subscribe, this channel has like 70 or 80% of people watching that are not subscribed. So, you know, if you want to, that would be very much appreciated. And if this can be of help to other people, then the best way to reach them is with, you know, a bit more comments, likes, and all that stuff. All right, thank you very much, everybody, for the support as well. I know who you guys are, and I really appreciate it. And I appreciate actually everybody just being here. Thanks for listening to my songs in the beginning, and I will see you hopefully next week. All right, Vince, welcome. I think it's the first time we see you here, so it's good to see you, and maybe come back and chat with us. All right, Jose, Indrajit, Brando, Alex, everybody, have a good one. Go practice a little bit more. Bye bye. See you, everybody.